Welcome to In the Clubhouse, Keith Bracey's wry look at all things rugby in the West Midlands, nationally and internationally. Well, Chris, thanks for welcoming me back to Sports Radio Birmingham.
Pleasure.
It's been a while since I was sat in the Clubhouse here in Alton, sunny Solihull. In fact, my last show was way back in November 2014.
Crikey, was that long?
It was that long ago, yeah. And here we are again 18 months later in April 2016. Having witnessed the most successful Rugby World Cup held so far in 2015 in England, with the New Zealand All Blacks retaining the trophy they won on home soil way back in 2011 when England imploded. Something happened similarly this time as well, I think. We'll go on to that later. As I say, the New Zealanders, the greatest rugby nation on earth, really, with 90% win stats and fantastic rugby culture down there in the Southern Hemisphere. As I say, the New Zealanders beat their fellow Antipodeans, can I say that, Chris? The Aussies in the final at Twickenham HQ. Although this was the most successful Rugby World Cup so far in terms of crowds, revenue raised and sheer excitement, it's a bit of a disaster for the home nations and the Northern Hemisphere in general, with all four semi-final slots being taken by the Southern Hemisphere giants. New Zealand, South Africa, Australia, and the surprise package of the 2015 World Cup for me, Argentina, who we know are a brilliant footballing nation, but surprisingly stuffed the Irish, scoring over 50 points against them in their World Cup quarter-final. The Scots came closest to the semi-finals with a controversial defeat in their quarter-final against Australia, with a last-minute penalty decision by the South African referee to award an eminently kickable penalty, which effectively put them out of the tournament. But the Scots were the best of the home nations. Wales were valiant in defeat against South Africa in their quarter-final. And I think the less said about England, Chris, under Stuart Lancaster, the better.
Terrible.
Yeah,
Was it as big a disaster as was portrayed?
I think it was... Well, in your home World Cup, to be knocked out in the group stages, you know, if it happened in a football World Cup... I think the manager was sacked, but it would be akin to that, you know. As I say, under Stuart Lancaster, England were abysmal, really. After, four second places in the last 4 Six Nations, but they were found wanting in the World Cup, and under Stuart Lancaster, close defeat to Wales at Twickenham. And then being outclassed by Australia in their last group match sent them crashing out of the tournament. This led to the departure of Stuart Lancaster from the England job, and the RFU bringing in the ex-Australia national coach Eddie Jones, who interestingly is part Japanese. He's got a Japanese dad and an Aussie mother.
That's not a Japanese name, though, is it?
Eddie Jones, no. He does look a little Oriental, shall we say, but... He's done a great job, as I say, and he's the ex-Australia national coach who actually was coaching Australia when England beat them in the World Cup in 2003, their only World Cup. What looked good on Jones' CV was the fact that he masterminded the greatest ever upset in Rugby World Cup history, with Minnows Japan, who coincidentally host the next Rugby World Cup in 2019, defeating mighty South Africa in the group stage by 1 point. Eddie Jones' success brings us to the Six Nations 2016, which was won by England with their first Grand Slam since 2003, when they won their only Rugby World Cup under Clive Woodward. And this, of course, was masterminded by Fast Eddie Jones, who is in total antithesis to previous England coach. It's a good word, isn't it?
I haven't got a clue what it means, but it sounds good.
For a Monday night in Alton, that's a tremendous word, that is.
Yeah.
Antithesis. You do have to say it very carefully. As I say, Stuart Lancaster for me was far too nice, too English and too northern, really. I mean, his attempts to inveigle Sam Burgess into the England squad totally undermined their efforts, and his team was in the coach's image, being far too nice, right from Captain Chris Robshaw to the coach and the players. Eddie Jones, Fast Eddie as I say, has introduced a bit of what rugby players call dog or mongrel, a bit of a combative streak, exemplified by Jones installing New Zealand-born hard man and bad boy Dylan Hartley. Dylan, that's an interesting name, isn't it? Bob Dylan? I bet he was named after him. Anyway, Dylan as captain.
Happy it wasn't the dog.
Yeah, off the magic roundabout. We're showing our age now, Chris. Dylan Hartley has become the England captain and hasn't put a foot wrong since. This was a man whose brushes with authority are, or were, legendary, with him being sent off for swearing at top English referee Wayne Barnes in a domestic cup final, and then him missing a Lions tour with a ban for violent conduct, which was eye-gouging, can you believe that? Which is absolute anathema. That's another good word with beginning in A-N, isn't it? Antithesis, anathema. Anathema to a rugby player, eye-gouging. And it was interesting to see today that George Creese, who was the star of the England Grand Slam effort, has also may miss the England tour to Australia this summer, because he reacted by headbutting a player who had messed with his eyes. So, eye gouging still in the game and needs to be taken out of it, really. Anyway, back to Dylan Hartley. Hartley led England to a great Grand Slam, and the England captaincy has been the making of him as a player. It's a pity that he can't recall lifting the Six Nations trophy, as he was concussed in the last quarter of the game with France when England won their 12th Grand Slam. On to the domestic front. When I left this rugby hot seat as host of In the Clubhouse in November 2014, Wasps had just left Adams Park in High Wycombe. As most people do, they do hightail it out of High Wycombe. And had moved lock, stock and barrel.
You'll be in trouble now.
Yeah. And had moved lock, stock and barrel to the Ricoh Arena in Coventry. A real rugby city, if you ask me. Host now to two rugby clubs, Wasps and Coventry Rugby Club, who, like Moseley, my club, are an old established club and seen better days, really, but more of that later.
Where do they play at?
Coventry play in the third tier of English rugby, Chris. The National League One. Right. They're not coming out of that this season. Again, money talks in rugby, as in most sports, and it's down to who has the biggest bank balance as to who comes out of that league. And I'm not sure who it is. It might be Rosslyn Park. It might be Blackheath. It's one of the London-based clubs, I think, that are looking like coming out of that league. But I want to go on to one of my pet hates when I was on this show previously, Chris. Wussy Boys.
I knew you was going to say
the Wussy Boys. Worcester Warriors. Yeah, well, Warriors.
You don't like them, do you?
Well, I've changed my mind, Chris.
Oh, you like them now?
Well, they've got their act together, would you believe? They've got their act together. When I was last in this seat, as I say, Worcester were battling to get out of the second tier of English rugby, the Championship, where Moseley play, but more of that later, which they succeeded in doing that last season by beating Bristol in a tense Championship playoff. And Moseley was struggling at the wrong end of the Championship, as they still are, as we currently speak. Fast forward to April 2016, and we see Wasps now consolidated at the Ricoh Arena, and now looking forward to their second European Cup quarter-final on the bounce, having lost last season to eventual winners RC Toulon the top French side, the all-star French side in last season's European Cup quarter-final. They now look forward to an exciting all-English European Cup clash with high-flying Exeter Chiefs at the Rico this coming Saturday, 9th of April. So if you're not doing anything on Saturday afternoon, if the Blues are not playing at home or whatever, or the Speedway isn't going on, actually Speedways during the week normally.
Yeah. They're on Wednesday nights now.
But I think you've got a big announcement you want to make about Speedway, Chris.
Well,
if you want
I'm going to leave it for a bit because we haven't actually had the all clear, but we
may have a big announcement on Speedway.
We may do, yeah.
We'll keep our fingers crossed for that on Sports Radio Birmingham.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to rugby. As I say, Wasps are playing Exeter Chiefs at the Rico this coming Saturday in a European Cup quarter-final, all-English European Cup quarter-final, when they're hoping to fill the 30,000-seat Rico Arena with a record Wasps crowd. I hope they're not going to get too
I'm not
stung
sure
about
how many it can hold. But it must
29,
be
30,000, I think.
It must be close to 30,000.
Yeah.
It's a nice.
It's a lovely
stadium,
ground. I went there. Well, as I say, I'm going to go on to talk about Wasps now. I now count myself as a Wasps fan, having visited the Rico myself a couple of Sundays ago for the game against Sale Sharks, which resulted in a thumping 38-12 win for the Wasps. Wasps play such an exciting brand of running rugby and are now a fixture in the top four of the Aviva Premiership with an important win over Northampton Saints yesterday. Another European Cup quarter-finalist Saints, along with top Aviva Premiership side Saracens and perennial European Cup competitors. God, that's difficult to say. European Cup competitors. Leicester Tigers. Now, at this juncture, I'll just run through the weekend's Aviva Premiership results. As I say, Wasps 28, Saints 6. On Saturday, Tigers 35, Gloucester 30. So the Tigers are still up there in the top four. And the Gloucester are languishing sort of mid-table. Then, of course, back to my favourites, the Wussy Boys. The wheels came off their campaign because they've just recorded a record run in the Aviva Premiership of 4 consecutive victories. That came to an end at Sandy Park in Exeter, with Exeter defeating those Wussy Boys 50 points to 12. And then again on Saturday we had the Quins 46, the Newcastle Falcons 25. And then looks like the favourites for relegation, London Irish 15, Sale 30. And then back on to Friday, which seems like an eternity ago, Bath 10, Saracens are top of the table 30. So as we see, the top four, Saracens, Wasps, Exeter Chiefs and Leicester Tigers. And it looks as, unless the Saints can make their way into that top four, it looks like those four will be making up the end of season playoffs. Anyway, back to the Wasps. So if you get a chance and want to witness some top-class local rugby action, get along to the Rico for a Wasps game. You won't be disappointed. I wasn't. A great stadium with unrivaled views of the action. Fantastic, no pillars in the stadium, so you don't nothing obstructing your view.
It's a cracking stadium.
It is. It's modern, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Most of our stadia, were built, some of them in the 19th century, a lot of them, and been tarted up since. Especially the Villa, but we won't mention the Villa at the moment. I'm in mourning, actually, Chris, but no, sorry about that.
You're privileged. Not many Villa fans get allowed to come in here. So.
I know, I am privileged, you're right. You let me ramble on about rugby anyway, so that's why I'm privileged, mate. As I say, Rico's got unrivaled views of the action, good parking, good value food and drink as well.
Yeah.
And I'll give you a bit of comparison here. Unlike Worcester, where me and the missus also went earlier in the season for the game against Newcastle Falcons, we sampled, we paid nearly £3 for a coffee. I know rugby players shouldn't be drinking coffee, but I was driving at the time, so that's my excuse and I'm sticking to it. We paid nearly £3 for a coffee at Worcester, and it was just £2 at the Rico. And, me and my mate Bob, Bob. Good evening to Bob Egan. If you're listening, Bob, welcome to Rugby Chat with me and Chris. Me and my mate Bob, we ate in the casino and we drank in the casino. £5 for a big burger and chips My mate Bob had a pulled pork bap. That's great. Pulled pork bap. Tough to say, but I can say. Pulled pork bap with chips. Just a £5, you know. Just for chips at some football grounds, you'd pay £3, you know, but you got a burger, pulled pork bap, and chips for a £5 at the Rico. It was fantastic. So I know rugby fans shouldn't be drinking coffee, but as I say, I was the designated driver rather than that day. So burgers and pies were fantastic at the Rico. Perhaps it's their football background with Coventry City playing there too. But I know the Coventry fans want to get their own ground because Wasps. You know, they're rapidly making the Rico their home. Although, as I say, the Rico is now owned by Wasps Rugby Club. And what's more, at Wasps we were all given free flags. Imagine that. We had free flags to wave our support for the Wasps.
Well, big flags or?
Yeah, great big flags with big stinging wasp on it.
So they gave every single person.
Well, you could have one if you knew. They announced on where to pick them up from, and everybody was given a flag, and it was fantastic. I mean,
should do that now, Blues.
I know. Well, you've got kids for £1, you know, that's great. But kids go free under 16s at the Wasps rugby.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, it would get more people in the game. I mean, the crowd wasn't brilliant. There was 12,800 in a 30,000 seat stadium, but I thoroughly enjoyed my fix of Wasps rugby, and as I say, I'm now a Wasps rugby fan. Although, as I say, Moseley is my first love, but I wanted to mention the rise of the Worcester Warriors, those Wussy boys who I kept mentioning when I was last doing this show.
Of course, we like the Wussy boys now.
We like the Wussy boys now.
Right, okay.
We're friends with the Wussy boys. We love the Wussy boys, as they say. Now, regular rugby listeners to this show from my previous stint will know that I didn't have a good word to say about those Wussy boys. I've now changed my mind. Under the combative Dean Ryan, they've had their best Aviva Premiership season yet, winning their last 4 Premiership games on the bounce with a crucial 12-6 victory over London Irish a couple of weekends ago on a wet Saturday, when it was just penalty kicks that decided the game, confirming their status in the Aviva Premiership for next season. So they won't be bouncing up and down between the Championship and the Premiership. So those 4 consecutive wins constitute a record-winning streak for the Warriors in their Premiership history. This has been achieved thanks to the recruitment of some top Southern Hemisphere talent, with scrum half Francois Ugar, Ugar spelled Hougard, Ugar, Francois Ugar, who with over 30 spring Ugar, yep. Well, that's his name, Francois Ugar, and he's a great player, one of the top South African players of the last 5 years. He's got over 30 Springbok caps, and he's also been joined by his fellow Saffer, Willem van Veltze, at number 8, adding a stiff Boer backbone. Sorry, Boer. Can I say that?
Yeah.
Boer backbone to the Warriors team, with Van Veltze at number 8 and Ugar at scrum half. So that's what they want, and they've also recruited some fantastic New Zealand talent. Ex-All Black Bryce Heem and Islander Cooper Vuna are adding tries on the flank, and the Warriors are flying, albeit the wheels came off, as I say, on Saturday with a 50-12 defeat to the high-flying Exeter Chiefs, who, would you believe, about 4 or 5 seasons ago were also playing the Championship. And they've come up into the Premiership and now one of the very, very top clubs in the Aviva Premiership. And as I say, the Exeter Chiefs are visitors to the Rico this Saturday in the European Cup to test themselves against the sting of the Wasps. What's of my first love as a rugby club, Moseley? Well, for a start, on my 58th birthday, April the 1st, April Fool's Day, last Friday, they changed their name from Moseley, which they've been called since they were founded in 1873, to Birmingham Moseley. To give them... Yes, I know, it sounds... But it's got to be done, Chris. It's got to be done. They've got to have more visibility. Nobody in the no rugby fan under the age of about 30 would remember Moseley in their pomp in the 60s and 70s when they were up there with the Baths, the Harlequins, the Wasps, the Llanellis. Can I say that without spitting? They're Welsh. The Cardiffs. Moseley were up there with these great clubs, but they haven't been up there for the last 25, 30 years, really. And to give them more visibility in a crowded rugby and sporting marketplace, basically, as I say, no one outside older rugby fathers like myself know where the hell Moseley was. I've been a Moseley fan since 1870. No, not that long. I'm not that old. I was only 58 on April Fool's Day, not bloody 88.
I know you look rough, but
You said I thought you thought I'd lost weight, Chris. Well, I have, but that's another question. Yeah, but, I've been a Moseley fan since 1970, not 1870. I wasn't founded in 1870. But it was, as I say, Moseley was confused with Mosley near Liverpool, and now they're called Birmingham Moseley. Everybody knows they're from the second city of Birmingham. As going forward, the club is to be known as Birmingham Moseley, to associate the city with the successful brand Birmingham, I suppose you might say, as the people at Marketing Birmingham would call the second city. The fact is, Brummie's booming, with the city just being voted by the Rough Guides amongst the top 10 cities in the world. And you know me, Chris, I'm always bigging up Birmingham, so because I'm a Brummie like you, mate. So we got to, this inferiority complex Brummies have got, this self-deprecating thing, it's got to stop. Got to get up there and promote ourselves as one of the top cities in Europe. That's what we've got to do. As I say, there's this Brummie's booming, and there's an investment boom going on in the city with the developments to the detriment of the city's traffic, I may add, like Paradise at the old library, the Smithfield development, the wholesale market site, and the Curzon Gateway development in Digbeth around Millennium Point and the new HS2 station, all taking Birmingham to the next level as a city. Birmingham Moseley Rugby Club want to be part of this success and associated with the successful brand Birmingham. Now, whether off-field ambitions can be replicated on the field is a different matter. Moseley languish at the foot of the championship, 4 points behind 11th placed, putting teeth in, side Ealing Trailfinders. With 2 games left, with Moseley probably needing to win both games, one of them being against top of the table side Bristol, a tough ask then for a club which has fought might and main to stay in the Green King IPA Premiership as a part-time club in a league where all of the rest of the clubs are full-time outfits. So Moseley, after 11 seasons in the second tier, look like...
It's him with that squeaky door. He's doing it on purpose now.
DJ Nick, great to see you, my friend. I'm all right, thank you. Just going banging on about Moseley again. Birmingham Moseley is to be known now. Nice to welcome Nick Spall, DJ of this parish, into the studio in Alton, sunny Alton tonight. Welcome, Nick.
The Reverend.
Alton or Solihull?
It's Alton Solihull.
Alton Solihull.
We're going to have to debate about that,
Okay. Anyway, back to the old Mose. Sorry, I shouldn't say that. The old Mose. Back to those wussy boys, haven't we? Sorry, I'm being a bit homophobic there. I shouldn't do that.
No, you shouldn't.
No.
I'll bleep that out.
Okay, that's good. So, as I say, Moseley are a part-time club in the league where all of the rest of the clubs are full-time outfits. So Moseley, after 11 seasons in the second tier, look like dropping into the community game, into the national leagues, where clubs get paid expenses only, as opposed to the 500k, $500,000, that all the championship clubs get. Notwithstanding their rich benefactors and investors, which many clubs have, which enable them to compete at the top level. It will be a sad day for Moseley if they are, as is likely, finally relegated after striving so hard to keep their heads above water, where they are little fish in a league of sharks. Especially with their magnificent new stand, which I know Chris knows all about. And it is a nice stand, which I have sat in and been entertained in. But I'm sure Moseley will bounce back after finding their right level when they find it more comfortable to operate. As all Mose men say, "Go on, Mose!" Anyway, that's my bit for Moseley. Now we're drawing to the end of the show, and I wanted to say give a big shout out to the club which nurtured me as a rugby player, Dixonians RFC. The old Dicks, but we shouldn't say that.
Not the big Dicks.
Not the big Dicks, the old Dicks. bit wrinkly around the gills, you know, because they're old, like me. But for whom I played from 1976 on and off until 2002, when I ruptured my patella tendon. My rugby playing days were over. That, of course, was when I wasn't playing for Birmingham University and Nottingham University. By the way, Chris, this is a bit of a milestone year for me. It's 40 years this year since I made my debut for the Birmingham University First 15, would you believe, as a freshman flanker. That's hard to say on a Wednesday night when you've had a few coffees. Freshman flanker in October 1976. Can you believe that? 40 years ago, when I was a young man, a young 18-year-old, against those teak-hard... So I made my debut for the Birmingham University First 15, against those teak-hard black countrymen of Dudley King Swinford Rugby Club, the old DK.
So next week is the anniversary of 39 years and 51 weeks when they got rid of you.
Actually, it was October, Chris, when I made my debut. Yeah.
Oh, well done.
But it's still 40 years, which are, you know, a bit of a milestone for me.
Yeah.
I've written a poem about it as well, which you can find online on my Twitter feed.
It's not a rude one.
No. It's all about my first year at Birmingham University back in 76, called Birmingham, the University of Life. And if you wanted to look on my Twitter feed, I'm at One True Claret and Blue, and you can find my poem, my Brum poem, as I've called it, poem about Birmingham University and me year as a freshman there on at One True Claret and Blue. So give it a look and see if you like my poetry, because I'm a bit of a Brummy bard as well as being a radio.
You've been called a lot of things, haven't you?
I have been called a lot of things. An old dick, a Brummy bard. What else?
Those are the good. No.
A villa.
Wait till he's gone.
A vile villa fan.
Yeah.
But as I say, I'm privileged tonight to be amongst all these blue noses. You know, and they've been very good to me. They haven't actually ripped the piss out.
Oh no!
Sorry,
No.
ripped the.
We never say it to your face.
No.
Wait till he's gone.
Well, I'm a bit in mourning for England cricket as well. Dear old
Got whooped it.
Stokes. Fair play to the West Indies though. Carlos Brathwaite, what a blooming innings. He scored 34 off 10 balls. Can you believe that? 4 consecutive sixes.
Don't really follow cricket, to be honest.
You don't?
No.
But, well, I thought you did a cricket show.
Yeah, but I'm not a cricket follower.
You're not a fan.
No,
boxing's your thing, isn't it?
I like
and
boxing,
Speedway.
yeah,
and the Blues. You're not a football.
Yes, yeah.
I did mention that, yes. Anyway, back to my first club and my first love, the old Dicks. Dixonians RFC. So, anyway, enough of this old fart banging on about the old good old days. And 40 years ago, when I made my debut for Birmingham University First 15, did I tell you that? What are the future for Dixonians RFC? They're looking for new players at the tail end of this season to hit the ground running when the new season starts in September. If you want to go to training on Tuesday nights and find out a bit more about the club, they'll be welcoming you to touch rugby outside at their ground in Bourneville at the Roeheath Pavilion, B30 1HH. On Tuesday nights, as I say, from 6 p.m. until 8 p.m. every Tuesday throughout the summer, with the emphasis being on sociable touch rugby sessions during this coming summer, with hopefully some players being able to play a better standard rugby, proper full contact rugby, starting in September. Please go to the Dixonians RFC Facebook page to find out a bit more about playing for Dixonians, and the sociable male and female players are welcome to the touch rugby sessions over the summer on Tuesday nights, as I say, from 6 to 8 p.m. And I'm sure coaches Tim Butler and player coach Matt Sexton will give you a warm welcome to the club, giving me everything in rugby. Anyway, that's all, folks, from me this weekend. Weekend, I'm ahead of myself. This week, and from me and the Mrs. Mary, we're off for a Spanish siesta near Alicante soon, not telling you when, in case we get visited by the people. The Peaky Blinders are coming round to burgle us. Anyway, the Peaky Blinders is coming back in May, hopefully. I love it.
Like it.
Oh, you're not keen? Even as a brummie. Anyway, I shall return at 7 p.m. on Monday, 18th of April, as this show is now fortnightly. As the late great Ronnie Corbett said, and it's good night from me,
And it's good night
Chris,
from...
and it's a good night from him. Good night.
Good night.
Good night, John boy.
Ain't got no money, but